we have in our archaeology department, we have a dating laboratory, and I think that's part of the inspiration for it, because it's all about dating. And I think a lot of people think dating is about dating using the techniques that we might call geochronology, dating things from radioactive decay, that type of thing, or there's luminescence dating things according to when they last received sunlight. But there are more old-fashioned ways of doing it that are still important, such as dating by fossils, dating by signs of the activity of humans, that's archaeology again. And also the progressive change in the landscape can be a dating method in itself, really, because the rivers tend to have cut progressively down into the landscape, leaving their work behind in the form of gravels perched on the sides as terraces. And that's where I come in.
How do you think that discipline, the work that you've got there, will interact with people within the time theme who may have a different perception of time? What can they learn from you, and what can you learn from them?
I think they learn from people like me the geological context of the stuff they date. So it's important that the daters talk to the geologists and the geomorphologists, and everybody understands what we're doing.
Yeah,
so,
and I suppose that would modify any calculation of the date that you'd come up with if you've other sources and expertise to refer to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk us through this specific example that you've...
is
this one you've prepared earlier?
It's something I brought along as a prop, and it links to some work I've been doing in Portugal, which is also linked to student teaching, actually, because I've been working with some Portuguese people of my own persuasion, interested in rivers, working on the River Tagus. And they have, like we do in the Thames, they have an important record of stone tools and the waste material from making stone tools. And we take students down there now because it's a good place to take students in the winter. The days are longer, the weather's a bit better. It's a good training ground in the winter for students on our field trip. So in order to be able to show students one of these stone tools, and I've only got this one so far, what I did was I brought some raw material back from Portugal after the first trip last year, which meant I brought a big pebble of quartzite back, because the tools there are made of this quartzite. So I got a man I know, Phil Harding from the Time team, made this.
Right.
I just gave him the pebble and said, could you knock me up a hand axe? Because this is called a hand axe. You can make replicas and you can study the edges of them, and under an electron microscope, and you can see what doing different things, like you can make a wooden spear with one, and that will give it an edge damage that's different to butchering an animal. Every now and again we find a site where they've been made, and all the material that's been knocked off is there, all scattered around. You can even see that the napper was kneeling. It's called napping, knocking bits of stone off. And archaeologists like to take all this debris back, and in the winter when they're not digging, they'll glue it back together. And they've glued them back together, and the hand axe itself is missing because the maker took it away and took away some of the biggest pieces of material that came off. But you can put it back together and you can make a plaster cast of the inside and the plaster hand axe. Obviously
you're bringing this expertise to the Institute of Advanced Study, although of course you are permanently here in Durham. What would you consider the importance of an institute like the IAS, not just in terms of the life of Durham University, but perhaps nationally, and given the other fellows here, even internationally? Do you think it's an important institute and institution in that respect?
I would hope so. It's building itself up. It's not been around all that long, has it? This type of thing that we're organising will bring in people from all around, abroad as well as from Britain, and people will come and talk to each other. So it builds new collaborations, and that's how science and study and research operates. So I think all this sort of thing is important, and I think it's a fantastic new institute, actually.